My name is Nazifa binti Muhammad Najib S52312. Today I would like to present about water cycle. What is water cycle? Water cycle is the constant movement of water on, above and under the surface of the earth. Is also known the hydrologic cycle or hydrological cycle. Water cycle is endless process connecting to all of the water. Without the heat energy of the sun, water does not evaporate, then rise until it reaches the cooler air and condense into the cloud. We don't have rain or other form of precipitation without cloud. The amount of the precipitation of the earth received and determined by the high and low pressure zone that occur in frontal system.
Most of Earth's water are stored in the oceans, which can remain for hundreds and thousands of years. In the evaporation process, water changes from liquid to gases by sun's energy. It was evaporated from the ocean surface, from lakes, streams, or puddles in the land. Only the water molecules are evaporated, but the salts remain in the ocean or the freshwater reservoir. The water vapor remains in the atmosphere until it undergoes in condensation process, which is the water vapor become tiny droplets of liquid. The droplet gather in clouds, which are blown by wind. The water droplets in the clouds are large, blue, and heavy. They fall from the sky as precipitation. Precipitation can be caused in rain, sleet, hail, or snow. Sometimes the precipitation falls back to the ocean, but sometimes it falls into the land surface and the water droplets in the clouds are large. When water falls from the sky as rain, it may enter streams and rivers that flow downwards to the oceans and lakes. Water that falls as snow may sit on the mountain for several months. Snow may become part of ice in the glacier, where it may remain for hundreds and thousands of years. Snow and ice may go directly back into the air by sublimation process, which is the state of solid change directly into a gas without becoming a liquid. Although you probably have not seen water vapor sublimating from a glacier, you may have seen dry ice sublimate in the air. Snow and ice slowly melts over the time to become liquid water, which provides a steady flow of fresh water to streams, rivers, and lakes below. A water droplet falling as a rain could also become part of a stream or a lake. At the surface, the water may eventually evaporate and re-enter the atmosphere.
Surface runoff is the water that runs over the surface of the ground from the rain, snowmelt, and other sources. Any precipitation travels from high area to low area on the surface of the earth into the body of the water. Surface runoff results from the overland flow and excess overland flow saturation. It occurs when the soil is saturated to its full capacity by water. The rain comes faster than the soil cannot absorb it, and this source is driven downhill by the gravity. Evapotranspiration often used to measure the movement of the water in the atmosphere when loss of the water from the earth's soil by evaporation. For evaporation and transpiration to take place, the energy and heat of the sun is required. Combination of evaporation and transpiration, usually in the term used to denote the transpiration process and evaporation of mammalia transpiration. This allows for small amount of water vapor in the air. Stream flow is the water flowing in the creek, stream, river you see in the low-lying area of the landscape is stream flow. Much of the flow of the land downhill into the river and ocean after rainfall. Stream flow also refers to a volume of water flow in a river. The flow of water in stream, river, and other channels of stream flow or channel runoff and its significant element of the water cycle. In the channel, water flow from surface runoff from opposite hill slope, from groundwater flow from the land, and from the water discharge from pipe. Infiltration is the movement of the water from the surface of the ground into the soil. The water becomes soil moisture. Soil moisture refers to the soil water content of groundwater. However, a recent global analysis using water-stable isotope indicated that not all the soil moisture is available similar for groundwater recharge or for plant transpiration. Groundwater discharge is the outcome of the water infiltration from the Earth's surface into ground. It released into the spring, into the river, lake, stream and reservoir of the freshwater storage, and into the ocean. Natural discharge is influenced by topography and geology, with the groundwater discharge from the high to low area. The low area like valley floor containing greater permeable or sandstone or gravel layer in topography water flow. Groundwater storage is the difference between recharge and discharge. The period of this process ranging from 1 day to thousands of years. The water is still flowing, likely very slow. Much of the groundwater comes from precipitation that infiltrates downward from the surface of the land. Aquifers are massive storehouses of the earth water. In the daily life, people all over the world depend on the groundwater. Two types of aquifer is confined and unconfined. Spring may be performed in any sort of rock. They ranging in size from intermittent seed flowing only after a huge amount of rain to massive pool flowing within hundreds of millions of gallons a day. Water resource performed when the side of hill, a valley bottom or other excavation intersect a flowing body of groundwater or below the local water table, which the subsurface material is saturated with water. Before reaching the river, spring discharge happens through the overlying gravel. Freshwater storage is the fresh water on the surface of the earth, including stream, river, lake, reservoir, and freshwater wetland. Water which contains less than 1,000 milligrams per liter of dissolved solid, most often salt, is the concept of freshwater.
Hello, my name is Nur Afifah binti Abdul Rahman and my metric number is S52321 and I will present the water cycle process from 1 to 7.
Rainfall. Water evaporates from the oceans in the form of water vapor and eventually return to land and sea in the form of precipitation. In the cloud, with more water condensing onto other water droplets, the droplets grow. When they get too heavy to stay suspended in the cloud, even with the updraft within the cloud, and then they fall to the earth as rain. Infiltration is the process where the precipitation of water soaks into the subsurface soil and moves into the rocks through the crack and pore space. It goes to the ground by first, water get absorbed by the soil in the long time until it get evaporated. Second, it occurs in the upper of the ground but may also continue further downwards into the water table. Interception. Interception is the amount of rainfall which is intercepted and will not infiltrated into the ground and take part in the runoff process. For example, rainfall will stay on leaf, second in the top of soil or in a small pond and then will evaporate within a few days. Surface runoff. Surface runoff is the movement of water across soil and surface through the stream channel. There are two types of surface runoff that occurs during rainfall or snow melt. In Malaysia, it usually rainfall only. Okay, first type is infiltration access overland flow. It occurs with the soil that is not saturated. In fact, the soil can be quite dry, but soil properties or land cover do not allow for infiltration to keep up with high rainfall or snow melt rates. Second type is saturation access overland flow. It occurs when the soil becomes saturated and there is no longer any space for water to infiltrate. This can occur even with the soil that will typically allow for large amount of infiltration in saturated condition.
The surface runoff. These are two types of surface runoff. First is dry soil and second is saturated soil. Okay, the first one is when the rain falls at the dry soils, we can see the water enter into the particles very slowly. And then the next one is when the rain fall into the saturated soils, the water absorbs and enters into the soil particles fully.
Percolation. Percolation is the movement of water through the soil itself. Finally, as the water percolates into the deeper layer of the soil, percolation can reach groundwater, which is water below the surface. The upper surface of this underground water is called water table. Subsurface flow. Subsurface flow is a flow of water as a shallow depth beneath of the ground surface may influence by relatively impermeable layer which enlarge layered flow. Second, the subsurface flow can re-emerge at the surface or near the base hill slopes. The third one is in the water cycle, when the precipitation falls under Earth's land, some of the water flow on the surface with forming streams and river. Channel discharge or river discharge. River discharge is the volume of water flowing through river channel. This is the total volume of water flowing through a channel or any given point and is a measure in cubic meter per second.
Thank you for the previous presenter. I'm Savita and I would like to present about evaporation in water cycle. Evaporation in water cycle is the process by which water changes from liquid to gas or vapor. It is a primary pathway that water moves from liquid state back into the water cycle as atmospheric water vapor. How does evaporation occurs? Okay. In water cycle, evaporation occurs when the sunlight warms up the surface of water, where the heat from the sun makes the water molecules move faster and faster until they escape as a gas. Once evaporated, a molecule of water vapor spends about 10 days in the air. Okay, there are many processes in water process, and I'm going to tell about exfiltration, evaporation, evapotranspiration, recharge, groundwater discharge, groundwater recharge. Exfiltration refers to losses of water from a drainage system as a result of absorption into the surrounding soil. When performing a rich routine, a constant exfiltration, which is known as CFS, can be subtracted from the inflow hydrograph to accounts from these losses. And I'm moving to the next, which is evaporation in water process. It is a type of vaporization that occurs on the surface of liquid as it changes into gas phase. The surrounding gas must not be saturated with the evaporating substance. When the molecules of liquid collide, they transfer energy to each other based on how they collide with each other. And to the next, evapotranspiration. What is evapotranspiration? It is a sum of evaporation from the land surface plus transpiration from the plants, which occurs during the photosynthesis. The typical plant, including any found in any landscape, absorbs water from the soil through its root. That water is then used for the metabolic and physiologic functions. It varies because of a multitude of factors like wind, temperature, humidity. Okay, moving to my next point, which is recharge. Recharge in water process. It is the main primary method through which water enters an aquifer. This process usually occurs in vadose zone because it occurs below the plant roots, and it often exposed or expressed as a flush to the water table surface. Moving to the next point, groundwater discharge is the volumetric flow rate of groundwater through aquifer. Total groundwater discharge as reported through specific area. It is a movement of groundwater from subsurface to surface. The natural discharge which occurs in lakes, streams, and springs, as well as human discharge, refers to as pumping. And moving to my last but not the least point, which is groundwater discharge, or known as deep drainage or deep percussion, is a hydrologic process where water moves downwards from the surface water to the groundwater. It recharges naturally by rain or snow melts, to a smaller extent by surface water, which is